Hello, I'm James,
Hi, I'm Jimmy,
and welcome to A Job Done Well.
the podcast that helps you improve your performance and enjoyment at work.
Good morning, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much. Right, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we're doing a look forward to the future, which is often
Crystal ball gazing,
crystal ball gazing.
as opposed to navel gazing.
Exactly. Well, we often spend a lot of time navel gazing and not enough time crystal ball gazing. So we are going to have a chat today about what do we think operations in organisations will look like over the next few years. And I guess the theory is if you want to be 10% better at work, you do need to think more about the future and plan for the future. So today we are looking to provoke your thinking to work out how you might adapt or get ahead to the changes that are coming our way. Remember, life moves pretty fast.
Yeah, you're taking a leaf out of Rishi's book there.
Ferris Bueller, come
Ferris
on,
Bueller.
I put in Rishi,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Right then, so other than that then, what's going on?
Not a lot here. I had the debacle last weekend where my youngest daughter on a night out lost her car keys, which, I don't know, apart from
Where did she lose them?
in town somewhere,
Right.
possibly in a number of nightclubs.
Yeah.
But the thing is, don't ever lose your car keys. And you think it's like, go down to the locksmith and get a key. No, they're specially programmed and they cost hundreds of pounds. Well, avoid taking car keys on a night out when you're not taking your car. You don't need it at all. But there you go.
Very sensible. Well, I have been busy renovating lights, and the thing I've discovered is if you're going to renovate lights, get an electrician, because I damn near killed myself. I tell you, I have created the biggest spark you have ever seen in your life this week.
Excellent.
Yeah, I still can feel it tingling at my arm.
Well, at least it didn't kill you.
No, well, at least, yeah, there are a lot of people who are very happy about that. When I look at operations, I've seen people trying to mitigate it like crazy, right?
Before you go there, James, what do you mean by operations?
What do I mean?
Yeah.
I mean the act of getting stuff done for your customers.
Right. So,
Although it could be, I mean, it's pretty broad.
well, it can, and it can be internal customers.
Yeah, absolutely. It can
So
be.
if you work in finance or HR, they both run operations.
Well, I ran an operation for a while, which was the front end of a business, and I was loading materials into a business, and frankly, there was no external customer at all. I was just loading stuff for people within the business.
So most organisations in the UK have some form of operation, don't they? At the end,
Yeah.
if you bear in
I'm
mind,
trying to think of one that doesn't.
Yeah, we mentioned in the previous episode, 80+% of people in the UK work in service industries.
Yeah.
That by its nature, operations. Whether you call it operations or not, that's a different matter. But let's hold that one back for a second. So, do you think it will even exist? Well, I think there's lots and lots of trends that will impact operations over the next few years. I mean, the big one at the moment is, it's all about artificial intelligence. I bet if you went round all the big organisations in the UK, there's not one of them won't be talking about AI.
I am sure every one of the big consulting houses is selling you an AI solution right now.
Well, there's some.
And theirs will be better than everybody else's as well.
Well, there's some that are advertising they've got 1,500 experts in AI, which I'm guessing means they've got 1,500 people that can spell artificial intelligence.
Well, it puts us ahead of the rest of us.
I know I certainly can't,
Yeah.
but there you go. But I guess the big question there is, what will it do? Will it take our jobs? Yeah. Well, I think if you go back and listen to the episode we did with Alex Alexander, who's absolute guru in all things AI, his very strong view was around hybrid AI-human interactions rather than it's going to take our jobs.
Yeah, it won't take our jobs. It will make them different.
Yeah.
But you've got to bear in mind we're recording this in Nottingham, right? So the home of the Luddites. You know about the Luddites, presumably?
Before my time, James.
Oh, so the Luddites, for anybody who doesn't know, they were led by a guy called Ned Ludds.
Yeah.
And in Nottingham, you had lots and lots of lace mills. And when they started to automate the lace mills, and they put in the machines to do that, the Luddites said these machines are taking our jobs, and they went round and smashed all the machinery.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, but a total waste of time, because clearly all of that mill equipment did not take everybody's jobs. It changed people's jobs, but it didn't take it. I think the same is true of artificial intelligence.
every day is a learning experience working with you,
You're
James.
so lucky to work with me.
I think that there's a few other things that will happen. I mean, customer behaviour changes over time, doesn't it? And at the moment, the cost of living's being crippling for many people. And I think that changes your views on the value you get from organisations, what you're willing to pay and what you're not willing to pay for, how we communicate. I mean, my kids, I'm sure you're the same, they don't go near emails or anything like that. It's a thing of the past. I mean, text message is a thing of the past for them. So
emails are a thing of the past.
in the corporate world, you're using all sorts of new channels, but we're dipping our toes in some of the channels like TikTok and Snap, stuff like that. And where else are the new channels that they use? Well, that method of communication changes over time. I remember when to do business with your bank, you went into your bank and then they said to you, go and use the phone. And it was like, oh my God, I can't use the phone. Then you start using the phone, you're never going to go in your bank branch again, are you? And then you get onto online.
The big thing was the hole in the wall.
Yeah.
I vividly remember my dad
that's true.
having to get into the bank before it was about 1 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we didn't have any money for the weekend.
Yeah. So you went branch, hole in the wall, telephone, online and apps. And when you go on online apps, I get really frustrated when I then have to phone my bank, which is ridiculous. So what will be the next change in behaviour that will happen? Who knows?
All right. So you've got that. What else have you got going on that's changing things?
Well, I reckon, generational changes. I mean, employee propositions and needs will change. And over the next few years, we're going to continue to have an influx of Gen Z workers. I mean, both my kids are now in full-time work. And if I think about what they want from work and how they operate, and they can't concentrate for more than 30 seconds on one thing.
I'm a bit unconvinced by Gen Z as an idea. I think it's a huge stereotype. However, you are right. When you look at, post-COVID, the world of work's changed dramatically. The whole thing about having to go into an office every day. Yeah. And what's really interesting, I mean, one of the big employers in Nottingham Boots, they have decided in their infinite wisdom that they expect everybody to go back into the office.
Yeah.
And I imagine that'll have a huge problem for them from an attrition perspective.
Yeah, so you've got changes to employee propositions, changes to workers' behaviours. Now there's a big push to get older workers back into the workplace after COVID. So all of a sudden you've got the young people who want to work in a certain way and communicate in a certain way, older people who want to do it a different way. That adds to the complexity. And then I think there are a whole other host of things that have popped up in the last few years that are still only, in terms of their impact, are only still maturing. So things like sustainability and what does that mean for organisations, and loads of people are scratching around and trying to tick boxes on making themselves more sustainable. The whole diversity and inclusion.
I'm hoping the Americans can have a D&I candidate in the White House very shortly.
Fingers crossed. That we'll be very pleased with that.
Right. So we got all of those different things.
Yeah.
So the workplace is changing, but doesn't that mean then that operations is becoming a thing of the past? I mean, that's the key question here, isn't it?
Over the last few years, some of the things that supposedly would mean that we don't need operations anymore. We've had voice response, robotics, digital, offshoring, branches have gone. All of these things have changed, and a whole load of new things have happened.
But thing there is, when you look at service organisations, they don't think of themselves as operational, and they think they need to mitigate the operations. So, for example, I've worked for a bank, and I've worked for an insurance company, and I've worked for a big data processor.
Yeah.
And all of these organisations think that it's all about the technical skill.
Yes.
So, for example, another class example would be the health service, right? It's all about being a good doctor or being a good nurse, but people don't value, I think, the whole concept of operations. It's about being a technical specialist, not being able to run your organisation.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, I think it's become, a bit of a dirty word.
I think an interesting point is, as a result of that, people don't invest in the skill. So it's not a skill set that a lot of organisations really excel at. We worked in insurance for a long while, and in insurance, everyone wants to improve their underwriting or maybe improve their claims, but then that's their technical claims side of things. But very few actually see the value in driving operations, actually to improve it. It's let's do all these things that are going to get rid of operations.
And I think it depends where you come from, because you've been doing operational jobs for years and years, but you don't actually call yourself an operations person.
No, when I think of operations, because I've worked in service organisations, in particularly financial services, where the skill isn't really valued, I won't call myself an operations person. I never have done. I'll try and avoid that in my job title, whereas you have a completely different attitude.
Yeah, but I started my career in manufacturing, so I worked in very large food manufacturing plants and chemical plants and things like that. And there, it was a definite skill, because if people got it wrong, somebody would die.
Yeah.
I worked for one organisation and they had an incident, let me say that, and I'm not going to say much more because I'll end up in court. But the bloke who was responsible for the incident got the nickname Bhopal afterwards. Do you remember Bhopal?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the big incident in India where he could have killed thousands and thousands of people. I mean, it's serious stuff. Whereas when you're in a insurance or presumably in a hospital, operations is the thing you give to Frank in the corner because he's quite organised, but it's not regarded as a serious.
It's a back office thing, and I remember when I worked for a certain insurer, I took over their commercial operation, which was all a thought of operations back office stuff.
Yeah.
The sexy part of it, the exciting part of it, that was the underwriting, the trading.
Yeah. But you've got, 3 or 4 things going on there then. So on the one hand, you've got organisations, particularly service organisations, where it's all about the technical specialism. It's all about, are you a good dentist? Are you a whatever it might be? Yeah. You've got a gradual move to minimise operational stuff. You outsource it, you automate it, you shove it to wherever you can, just sweep it under the table. And then you've got this view that it's really not a useful skill. But then on the other hand, as we said earlier on, people are always going to need to get stuff done. So where does that leave us? We cover a whole host of topics on this podcast,
from purpose to corporate jargon,
but always focused on one thing: getting the job done well.
Easier said than done. So if you've got unhappy customers or employees, bosses or regulators breathing down your neck,
if your backlogs are out of control and your costs are spiralling, and that big IT transformation project that you've been promised just keeps failing to deliver,
we can help. If you need to improve your performance, your team's performance, or your organisation's, get in touch at jimmy@ajobdonewell.com
or james@ajobdonewell.com.
All the trends that we've seen over the last 20 years have always promised to change everything dramatically. And to your point, they have changed the way the work's done, but they've never been the panacea for everything. And I think the trends that we talked about seeing now, whether that's hybrid working to AI to changes in the workforce, I think they will change the work, as you said, but will we still need operations? I'm absolutely sure we will.
Well, and I think actually it's a mindset, it's about how you look at problems and how you think about them. Because frankly, the problems are the same. When I started my career in 1989, the place where I worked, things were too slow, they were too expensive, and the quality was a bit, Well, interestingly, we just done an engagement with a company, and their issues were they were too slow, they were too expensive, and the quality wasn't great. So you have the same problems repeating, It's just within a different context.
And you might be managing a different infrastructure. So I think getting to grips with the changes to the technology landscape and understanding what does it mean for you and how you can leverage it, how you can use it, that's always useful. There are times, though, in customer interactions that people will always want to speak to people. At the end of the day, I might be really happy only ever doing business online with my bank, but if I have a big problem, I may well want to talk to a person to get the reassurance that that problem's being sorted out. You know what it's like when you're contacting an organisation, you've got a problem, you need it sorted out, and you're just getting pushed into endless loops by chatbots. Really efficient, isn't it? But boy, does it piss you off.
Well, it's efficient, it's not necessarily effective.
No, but I think that's because that when organisations do things like chatbots, they haven't got the basics all sorted out in their organisation. So all they do is, whether it's robotics, AI, or IVRs, or anything else, outsourcing, it's just do it to something that fundamentally doesn't work effectively anyhow.
Well, but that's driven by management thinking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, we've still got the same thinking, which is you must reduce your costs
This year,
yeah, in the short term. I am the boss, I know better. Here's your target, on you go.
yeah. And that attitudes, which I think we see now in organisations we saw 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, they limit success. So I think you're right. In the 2030s, operations will look completely different, but it will still be there. It will still have the same outcomes to sort out. Too expensive, too slow, quality not good enough.
So even if you don't call them operations, you're still going to need operational thinking.
You are.
Right. So we violently agree on that, but then we wouldn't we? Because even though you won't admit it, you are an ops guy. But what is operational thinking? How would you go about defining that then?
So I think some of the things that people can develop that will really help set them up for success now and in the 2030s, establishing and really understanding your customers' needs. And I think that really links to something we talk about a lot, which is, what's the overall purpose? Why are you even here?
If you want your operation to be successful, you need to know what it's supposed to be flipping
Yeah.
doing. Yeah, and it's doing something for a customer. So if you don't understand what your customer wants, then you're kind of wasting your time.
Yeah. And I think that's where organisations often think about operations very one-dimensionally. They think about it as a cost centre. So operations just here to reduce cost.
Yeah, well, that's my pet peeve, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy to reduce costs, go and hide something, don't answer the phone, whatever it might be. But, well, we had a bloke in one organisation we worked for, it was an insurance company. He was very good at reducing costs. When he got insurance claims, he'd take one and pay it and take another one and put it in a cabinet. It reduced the cost, but it wasn't really a long-term play, was it?
No, exactly. So ensuring that all your activity is linked to that overall purpose, that's one key thing.
Yeah.
The second one, we touched on this in a previous episode when we were talking about thinking about operations more as a system, and I don't mean technology system, I mean the entire system. So what do your people do within that?
What your people do in your processes,
your policies,
your
how you
IT
manage
systems,
them, your leadership, your technology, the whole lot, and really understanding it and figuring out how it performs as an entire system.
Right, rather than being the world's best underwriter or being the world's best doctor.
Yeah, the component parts of it, or about the whole lot.
Yeah, so customer needs, think about it as a system. What else?
You've got to listen to and value your staff. The staff are the ones that are either serving your customers or enabling your customers or dealing with the technology, whatever it is. Make sure that you listen to them because they'll know what's really going on. Stay close to them and, go and see their work.
Oh, right, because you've got the ultimate feedback loop there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because how do you know if your organisation is working or not if you don't talk to your staff and you don't go and see?
Yeah, and I'll bet you 9 out of 10 leaders who have big teams of people don't do either of those things.
Yeah.
They tell their staff a lot. They'll communicate to their staff. Communication means me communicating to you.
Yeah, but, well, absolutely. The biggest breakthroughs I've ever had is always been when I've just taken the time to sit down, sit next to somebody and work out something's really working.
Yeah. And that's part of the culture. And are you creating the right sort of culture that helps ensure that you are successful and your organisation is successful? So are your people all aligned on delivering whatever that purpose and set up to do that?
Yeah, my pet peeve in this is this whole sort of blame culture thing. If something goes wrong, trying to work out what went wrong, not who went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, so then we've got culture. What else?
Well, I think the other thing is thinking a little bit more long term. We touched on one of the reasons some of the innovations in the past haven't really had the impact that we thought they would have is because of short-term thinking. But that's really about looking over the horizon at what's coming at you.
Yeah, okay, but by that, do you mean all the sort of shiny new toys, or what do you mean by
No,
that?
that's jumping on the bandwagon. So
Right.
everyone is getting an AI project running because that's what everyone else is doing, not because they've been looking at the horizon and really understanding, what's the technology innovation and what are competitors doing in the long term, and really figuring out what that opportunity is for you. It's all just, I want what you've got.
Yeah, and I suppose I'll run the risk of making this a never-ending list, but that links to my whole thing about understand what the problem is, because AI might solve your problem,
Yeah.
or it might not, but there's no point throwing it in if you haven't got a problem which you want it to fix.
And when we talk about competitors, try and look outside your industry, because we've worked in a number of industries where the organisation or people within the organisation claim to be the best insurance company or the best credit card company or whatever. If the standard in your industry isn't that high, it's like living in a good house on a shit street. It still doesn't mean that it's the best.
And everybody's got the same problems: too slow,
Yeah.
too expensive,
Yeah.
and the quality's dreadful.
Look at who's doing the best work outside of your industry.
Yeah, and see what you can nick.
And that's key. Fundamentally, it's being open to learning. Don't think that you've got all the answers, because that's one of the things that blinds us.
Yeah, so let me summarise that then. Our view: what is operational thinking? Understand what your customers' needs. Think about your organisation as a system.
Yeah.
Listen to your staff and go and see what's going on. Worry about your culture. Is it delivering what you want? Think about the long term from a technology perspective. And then, as you rightly say, always be open to learning.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you want to carry on learning, you can talk to us.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to you.
We've got lots of experience on how to help organisations improve their performance.
So, in conclusion then, the reported demise of ops is not happening, as you put it is previous.
Yes. And things will look different, but the problems may well be the same.
Yeah. So, really focus on operational thinking. How do you want this to work?
Yeah. And if you do that now and into the future, now you'll be successful and you'll improve your performance, and so will you into the 2030s.
Lovely. Right, I'm glad I got that off my chest. I'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's episode. And if you have any questions or comments for us, please get in touch. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers now.
If you'd like to find out more about how James and I can help your business, then have a look at our website, jobdonewell.com.